everyone, welcome back to the Be More podcast, where we inspire you to be more of every role within the Salesforce ecosystem and beyond. For today's episode, we are exploring what it means to be more alliances, and I'm joined today by Richard Clark. So could you start off by introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Hi, Tom. Hi, Be More audience. So Richard Clark. I'm been in the ecosystem, oh my word, since 2007. And you can tell from the hair, I've been in the IT world a bit longer than that, probably 35 years now. It's quite scary. So my role is I am the VP for EMEA Alliances and Customer Success at Elements.Cloud.
Okay, awesome. And it's great to have somebody else from Elements on the podcast. I kind of seem to be working my way through the team a little bit. I've had Ian and Xavier, and now I've got you as well. So it's great. So break it down for us, right? Alliances, what does that actually mean? What does that entail? What types of responsibilities are we talking about kind of under that header?
Yeah. So I've also in previous roles been looking after strategic alliances as well as Chief Strategy Officer. And it can be about running an alliance team. In my role, I'm very much work as part of a team across North America and Europe. And generally, for us as an ISV, it's about working with Salesforce partners, ISV partners, and system integrators, and working with Salesforce themselves. So a typical week might be doing demonstrations to Salesforce SEs and professional services teams. It will also involve doing initial calls with consulting partners who want to become customers or use our technology in their implementations. So there's very much quite a large blend of the sort of SE activity and onboarding because I have that customer success role as well, partner success. But largely it's about having a target for retention and recruitment of partners and enabling those partners. So making sure they understand what a product does, understand our product marketing, how it can help them as users, but also help them with their customers as well to sort of drive the evangelism side of things.
Okay. Perfect. And leaning kind of onto the next question, and you hinted at some already, what type of other people do you interact with as part of that role? So you've mentioned kind of partners and Salesforce. What other people do you typically kind of engage with?
Sure. So internally, I work with our sales team in terms of being able to generate customer referrals. So a large part of how my performance is measured is our partners, our alliance partners generating channel revenue for us. And it's a much harder job almost than working with end customers because you're not selling to the customer yourself. You're enabling those partners to understand the product and do that. So a large part with that also means we have a partner enablement team in the US and we have an academy. So very much making sure that the content we're producing isn't just customer focused, but is also targeted at our alliance partners as well, that we've got training for them. So working with the content team around making sure the content is suitable, working with our product managers as well, so they understand the perspective which consultants have, which is actually quite different to an end customer quite often. They're looking at different things, they're using the products in different ways. And it's really represented that viewpoint as well on behalf of those users and those alliance partners. And finally, do a lot of work with marketing teams around the content we do, the events we run, the messaging we put out on our stands at events, and which events we participate in and whether they're going to be attending as an alliance representative to build contact, like in French Touch Dreaming, or whether I'm there more in a customer-facing way in terms of working the booth.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And thinking about this now, and you kind of see this perhaps more so in like smaller companies or smaller consultancies, that sometimes the alliance person is also business development or maybe a consultant as well. In terms of your role from your experience, do you play that alliances role full time, or do you kind of have other roles that you kind of embody as well?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I have elements. I thought I was taking on 2 roles. And then with my first week, they said, well, actually, it's 4. Okay.
Right.
So it's that strategic alliances. It is that BDR type qualification as well. We are unusual that we sell to our alliance partners, not like Salesforce do, not in a, you pay this much to be part of the program. What we do is, obviously, it's a tool that they can use not just resell or recommend. So that's a large part of the role to say educate them, but also to identify if they should be using more of our product. And if our pricing changes, make them aware of those pricing changes and the features that go with it as well. So that's more a typical customer success adoption part of the role as well. And that's why it's kind of a combined role. The benefits of that mean that when I'm talking about partners, we could be talking about them and we could be talking about their customers in one conversation rather than dealing with different teams and having different conversations. In the same way, our relationship with Salesforce means I understand talking to the Salesforce A's and SEs about a particular customer, what their challenges are, and they can give me better information about that, or which partners they want me to work with, which ones to focus on in the ecosystem, in their industry, who are the key partners they then want to partner with us and to be alliance partners as well.
Okay. So the theme that's coming across from this is kind of a lot of relationship management, right? Would you agree with that?
100%. PRM, CRM.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to throw in an extra question because I know Elements is doing some work in this area. Like, how are you utilizing AI to be more efficient or kind of work, as I like to think about it, smarter, not harder?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing recently has been transformation. We did the work to allow you to take a business process and generate user stories from it and take user stories and generate solution recommendations. But what we found from that is the agent force revolution, because it is a revolution. It is a massive disruptor for us. And the target of having lots of customers live or adopting Agentforce by the end of Salesforce financial year, most of the people we've been engaging have been on the alliances side, not end customers. The end customers may be piloting or playing, but it's actually people like yourself who are in the field say, I've got to get this working. And we were fortunate that we discovered that by taking a process, by understanding what things should be done, it was already doing that agent instruction, and that we could take that information and say, this is the process and this is the things that could happen. And these are the things we don't want to happen, guardrails, in other words. We could take that and actually we could generate agent instructions, and we can even generate test cases. And given my history in testing, I was quite pleased with that one, as you can imagine. And again, that is going to those partners, and not because they bought licenses. We just think we give a lot, and you see Ian do it all the time. We give a lot back to the community because it builds trust, it builds value. And we don't go out and buy lists of partners. We don't go on the App Exchange and say, oh, who's a consultant in this area? I'll go contact them. It's through people like yourself, how we network and how people become aware of us, that we become known, that drives people to the website to book a meeting with me who wants to become a partner. Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. The use case around making that business process, kind of feeding that into an agent, and then the agent kind of outputting as a result of that. I think that's a good example of how you can use Agentforce, and also, in my opinion, illustrates the importance of business analysis as well. Because without that, your agent is kind of lost, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. And the flip side is we've now changed how our product direction is going from listening to our partners. So the amount of times, I think you even said this to me, so can you take that metadata and tell me what all the processes are? And we went, we couldn't. Yeah, we could do that actually. So we've done it. And that's going to come out next year. So we've listened to what partners would do. Can you build an ERD from that? Yeah, of course we could. But why would you want that? Well, we don't like Schema Builder. Yeah, good point. So those things, actually, that feedback is two-way. It's really important we listen to how people and what challenges our partners have, because they are customers. And that's the other part of the alliance, is I give that feedback back to the product team saying, they're not going to pay for that, or they're not going to use that, or if we did it this way, it's in the language of the alliance partners. They'll understand it, they can adopt it, and they can share that content with their customers.
Yeah, awesome. And with Agentforce and the speed that it's coming, like we've had Agentforce 1.0 in October, 2.0 in December, and 3.0 is coming in May.
Like, I hadn't heard that.
Okay, well,
okay.
I'm glad I'm teaching you something here. That's
I was expecting it for TDX, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So how were you managing to keep up with all of this? Because Salesforce are driving forward this revolution at kind of record speed. Is that presenting any challenges?
Yeah, I think it's true to say Data Cloud this year. It was last year. It'll be last year by the time people hear this,
Yeah.
probably. But again, the same thing happens. Salesforce have pivoted from here, this is coming in 2 years' time, to this is here next week, or this is here next month. And then every week or month it changes. And I think Agentforce people, early adopters, I mean, I went to the AI Center in June, was it, when it opened in London Bridgeway? And what we did then is completely different now. So I think we're all a little bit overwhelmed and tired of hearing about agents and Einstein and co-pilots. And yet we cannot afford to come off that treadmill, because what we thought we knew is changing so fast. And building agents with text, building agents through diagrams and elements. I assume Agentforce 3.0. I don't have any inside knowledge, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the voice stuff. So voice to agent, because we know that OpenAI have developed it. We know it's available, and we've seen other people doing exactly that. So I can see that being a key part. Obviously, Agentforce 2 using Slack as a UI for the chat always made sense. I was very happy to see that was coming very soon. But then, of course, I can talk through Slack as well. So it makes sense to enable it through that. Hopefully, Salesforce won't limit it to Slack, and they'll open up for people on Teams as well.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be an API that you can call to utilize it. I'm sure that's coming if it isn't there already. And yeah, I think it's going to revolutionize a lot of things, like with 2.0 in particular. One of the things that wasn't kind of announced but is expected is for agents to be able to respond to external events via platform events. And like, suddenly I've got an order that's come in from another system, the order's been cancelled, so the agent can maybe cancel the order out in Salesforce and send confirmation message with Marketing Cloud or something else,
Absolutely.
So I think...
And there's a suggestion there for Salesforce. Okay, you don't want to call it a headless agent. I get why not. It's not a good name.
Yeah.
So use the same terminology we have elsewhere. It's a record-triggered agent, or it's event-triggered agent. That's what it's called on Flows, automation agent. Whatever it is, we've got the right terminology in the platform. Please use the same terminology for these.
Yeah.
And say what they're doing. Because I think that, for me, I think I messaged about it on LinkedIn today or yesterday. That is the transformational piece. That's where agents cross the chasm from being fun and interesting and quirky for a specific use case to actually changing all our lives and making a big difference in how we as consultants build automations on the platform.
Exactly. And being independent and being able to make those decisions for themselves about how to react to a certain platform event or whatever it may be. So yeah, we'll stay tuned and see how that develops, because 3.0 is kind of penned for May. I'm sure 4.0 will follow soon after,
Sure.
So we'll have to see. Anyway, shifting back now to alliances. If somebody was listening to this and they were feeling inspired and they were perhaps looking to start out in alliances themselves, what tips, advice would you give to that person?
Firstly, I think if you're in an alliance role or you want to be in alliances, but you don't want to sell, I think you probably should rethink that. By all means, there is the account management for alliances.
Yeah.
That is a role. But if you're not comfortable networking, if you're not comfortable introducing yourself, if you're not prepared to virtually knock on doors, it may not be the role for you. And it's not something I consider myself a natural at. Fortunately, I already had quite a large network of people, and that made it easy that I was recognized and people understood, and I had a senior role. But starting out in alliances can be very difficult. You should be prepared for a lot of pushbacks.
Okay.
The other advice I'd give you is there isn't really any training you can do for it. Okay. I think beats experience on this one.
Yeah.
And if you've done an alliance role in a completely different technology, or even not in technology, you're probably very well suited to cross over. Okay. Or if you've been in something like recruitment, or you've been in any previous sales role, it's probably much easier to move into alliances and to focus less on revenue targets and more on generating demand and maybe a number of partners and partner engagement. It takes the pressure off. If you don't like talking the dollar signs, that could be a way for someone in sales that isn't comfortable selling, but is very good at nurturing to take a role. So that could be a relevant experience as well.
Okay. Awesome. And thinking about your own journey now, when it comes to alliances, if you had the opportunity to start again, is there anything you would change or do differently kind of the second time around?
For me, I actually, because I've done so many different roles, I lost contact with a huge number of people over time.
Mm.
I wish I'd had that crystal ball to know this is where I was going to be.
Yeah.
Because I focused so much on technology as a CTO and as a CPO as well, I neglected the relationships I'd built up over time. And for me, that was probably the hardest thing, is starting again. Likewise, at Salesforce, obviously, there's been a massive change, and every year there's a change now. They shuffle the deck of AEs, which industry they're in, but the RVPs change. It's which industries combine, and you're like, well, hang on, who's doing what, where? And again, can't do anything about that, can't do anything predictive around that. But I do wish I'd spent more time and effort previously. And what I did, I guess I delegated more stuff in my previous roles instead of owning more of those relationships. So again, I wish I'd spent more time with each of those alliance partners in my previous role.
Yeah, I think that there's some good lessons there, and I can certainly relate to Salesforce, as I call it, playing bingo every year with their PEs and basically shuffling them up and then say, okay, you're in this industry now, or you're in this team now. These seem to do very similar things with product names as well. I'm pretty sure they just have a bingo machine with letters and it just spits out the new product name and then that's it.
I did make an internal Slack post after the announcements on Tuesday, the changes around the was it Atlas Reasoning Engine or whatever it's called. And I shared the link to the generator. Do you know that's the website? And it's very similar to some of the terms. I'm not saying it is, it's just almost like the product marketing. I thought, what do we call this? How do we explain it to blah 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 blah? And if I don't, people can't understand what something means, please rephrase it so everyone understands, because it's no good this being a special language that people need to speak. And we need these things explained very clearly what they do. Oh, it extracts words out.
Yeah.
It turns speech into text. Oh, great. Let's call it that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's perhaps why they've taken away like headless agents, to think about somebody's not familiar with like headless login flows or anything else that kind of is headless, then that's not going to resonate with them at all. Something like automated or triggered agent is more understandable, I think. So we'll see, because Salesforce will change it again. They will rename something again. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. So thinking about alliances now, if you were to summarize like particular skills or attributes it took to be successful in alliances, what kind of terms or personality traits would you use to describe that kind of ideal person?
I guess I alluded to a lot of that earlier. In the social butterflies do incredibly well at getting through the door. You also need to be able to have a structure and plan. It's no good just meeting people at events. So someone with an approach where they follow a regimented process saying, right, I'm going to engage this person in this frequency. You also need to be able to quantify the value of that relationship. So there's no point if someone's a very, very small partner spending all your time with them just because they're fun and you like them and you have a good time. It's good. It's a nice part. But ultimately, you have to think about where you should be spending your time. You also need to be able to understand when you're just, sometimes we don't get on with people. There's just a personality clash sometimes. You don't always bond with everyone you meet. So is that you? Do you need to change your behavior? Do you need to work with someone else in that organization? Is someone better fit? Or is a different organization you need to be working with? You have to be careful about those sort of things. Maybe I won't own that relationship, and one of my colleagues who's maybe got a better relationship with them is more able to develop and nurture that content. Or it could be language based. So obviously I don't speak anything except English. That makes it very difficult in France, Spain, Italy.
Yeah.
So again, what I do is work with partners in that region to then work with other partners. So maybe a reseller or someone like that, or somebody focused on process, not Salesforce, Salesforce partners. So it's just being able to think outside the box a little bit too is quite important, I'd say.
Okay. And thinking about that, like when you're building these relationships, do you find it useful, helpful to have common ground with the person that you're talking to? Like if you have something in common with them, kind of as you kind of hinted already, does that help?
I think it does. Obviously, I only know that I've been on your side of the fence. I've been the consultant who I'm talking to now.
Yeah.
I've been in the situation both as a consultant at somewhere like Blue Wolf and Gemini, and I've also been the CTO at those companies, the ones saying, am I going to invest in this relationship? And back in the day, Make Positive, it was the New Voice Media were making all the waves, making a decision, I'll be doing that. And Velocity, those were the partnerships I was engaging with their alliance managers. And I was able actually to learn a lot from some very good alliance managers at places like New Voice Media. How were they trying to incentivize us to adopt their product? Could I follow the same patterns? What was their behavior like? Was it someone who only talked to the bosses and didn't talk to the staff? I decided not to be like that. But that experience changed the way I was from being able to see the other side. And I think anyone in any role always try and look at things through the eyes of your customer or your partner, understand what's in this for them. Why would a Salesforce A have a meeting with me? What am I going to drive for them? Am I going to help them close deals? Am I going to help them increase their pipeline? Because I'm not going to do those two things. They don't want to meet with me and I'll just be wasting their time and mine.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really important point. Like it has to be mutually beneficial for everyone involved, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've got an opportunity to clarify or demyth something about alliances. Like, do people, when you introduce yourself and you say, I work in alliances, they come back and they say, that must mean you're this thing or you do that activity, like in particular, and perhaps it's a misconception and it isn't true. Like, are there any kind of things out there that you'd like to clarify about what alliances is, that isn't?
Probably not in my case because I have such a broad role. However, when someone's alliances, they may be alliances for a specific area. So let me give an example.
Yeah.
When working at somewhere, so some of the DevOps platforms I know, their alliances team, a good friend of ours, her team's focused purely on alliances with Salesforce. I was messaging her about SI and ISV relationships. Said that's fine, but that's not me. That's not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to recognize that some people are not in your tier, or they're not your alliance managers because they're alliances. You may find they have a channel manager, or maybe they don't have any alliance program at all. I guess thinking about that in terms of Elements, one thing I often get is people saying, "Oh, can I be a reseller?" And you can't just walk in as a reseller for ISV platforms. I'm sure, there are one or two individuals who have proven themselves in that capability. But in most cases, if you haven't used that product before, if you haven't learned about it, if you're not been engaged with us seeing us sell, we don't want you trying to sell our product because you don't know how it works and you don't know what it does. You don't know what its benefits are. We don't want people to be mis-selling our product. And that can be difficult when someone says, oh, I want to be able to resell your products. We go, well, no, we'll let you bring us in. We'll let you do a referral, but we don't want you selling it until you've done X deals already and proven that you understand the product and platform.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I think that's really important because I guess, and that's justified in terms of trying to protect the reputation of the product and Elements as a company as well.
And, subscription licensing and the whole model that we've been talking about, subscription or consumption, it's about adoption, it's about growth, it's about retention. It's easier to sell and retain an existing customer than acquire a new one. Customer acquisition cost is very important, and ignore it at your peril. If you only focus on new customers and not supporting your existing partners and customers, that's a very difficult way to get growth. And as we know, the last couple of years, technology growth has been challenging. There are very few unicorns out there, except for those people that create the company around Bitcoin. So well done you that have been selling your licenses in Bitcoin. Enjoy your lovely Pacific Island.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, we are bringing the episode for today to a close, but before we do go, what's a way for people to connect with you? And are there any particular pieces of content that would kind of help somebody on this alliances journey, do you think?
Content-wise, can't think of anything specific. I don't even think there's anything really about it on things like Trailhead. There is some good stuff on LinkedIn Learning around it.
Mm-hmm.
There are other online resources you can go to these days. I mean, LLMs are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
If you tell it to act in that way, I'd probably start there. and then use the new web search for where did you get this source. Always check that it's not made up. In terms of connecting with me, I guess the best way is LinkedIn. It's my favorite. I still have a Twitter account, although I don't endorse the platform. Sorry, X platform account. I'm always Rich Clark 808 and on Blue Sky now as well, but I haven't made any friends on Blue Sky yet. I'm sitting back looking at the content as a neutral, going, and not sure if this is any better. It's just a different bias. But yeah, I'm waiting to see what happens on Blue Sky yet before I commit to it being a content platform. But I post regularly on LinkedIn. I share my slides, any talk on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. People can reach out to you, and it's probably best on LinkedIn, as you said. So before we do go, just wanted to thank you again for your time today, and hopefully we inspire people to kind of lean more into the role of alliances, or perhaps pursue that path for themselves. So thanks again for your time.
I'll just add, it's not a role that I think AI is going to replace yet. So there is safety in that role. Thank you, Tom.
Not
Thanks,
yet.
everyone.
Yeah.
Not yet.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.